All right, yo. Welcome to another episode of Son's Vision Art Life. My name is Adewale Worker Jr. Please review us, rate us, give us a 5-star. Don't be a hater. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. Hope it brings y'all great achievements, continued great health, and prosperity to all the things you want to accomplish. But before we get going with this podcast, I want to thank our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Son's Vision Podcast, brought to you by A4 Capital Consulting, growing good business anywhere and everywhere. Let A4 Capital Consulting take your business to the next level. That's A4CapitalConsulting.com for details, y'all. That's A4CapitalConsulting.com for details, y'all. And this podcast also brought to you by Anadel for the Ankle. Don't live with foot pain. Let Anadel for the Ankle make your feet happy again. That's AnadelCenter.com for details, y'all. That's AnadelCenter.com for details, y'all. As I stated before, A4 Capital Consultants coming out with the new podcast this year, so get ready, look out for it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to help you to understand ways to which you're going to grow your business, take it to the next level just like us. And also, too, Anadel for the Ankle. As I stated before, custom orthotics, you know what I'm saying? You want to get yours designed for your foot, not just some generic brand, but what's designed for your foot to make your feet feel the best they can be. And my feet feel great. No surgeries, no nothing, man. Dr. Nero and so that Anadel for the Ankle will make sure he diagnoses you and gives you the right custom orthotics, which go in every pair of patterns that I own today. You know what I'm saying? So Anadel for the Ankle, y'all. AnadelForTheAnkle.com. Center.com, excuse me. All right, y'all. Today, I'm going to get today's podcast. I'm calling it Ball and Chain. It's kind of on a serious note. As we know, in many families, there are domestic abuse. Growing up as a kid, I grew up in a household where my father was an abuser of my mother. This guy used to put his hands on my mother. I mean, used to beat her like it was an MMA, man. I mean, it was crazy. And as a kid, you know, from around 8 years old to about 11, you're able to understand what's actually going on. And so finally, one day, after seeing all this, you know, I'm going to tell you in the way I'm going to tell you all the stories, you know, there's things I want to talk about. Starting off with story, the effects of it, resentment, trauma, and also change too, right? So the story itself, you know, around 11 years old was the last time he ever put his hands on my mother because I did something about it. You know, I laid him out basically. But before I get to the story, as a kid watching him just beat her to the point where it looked, used to have to clean her up with a towel, looking like we were just in a boxing match. She was just in a boxing match. That's how violent this was. And I said to myself, this is going to stop. So one day around 11 years old, I believe I was still maybe, I don't know, 6th grade or something, man. Me and my brother was going to school, and I told my brother, if this dude puts his hands on mom again, I'm going to lay him the hell out. And sure enough, that's what happened. The last time he put his hands on her, she used to work at this job called Compact, and she was at work, and he went over there to abuse her at work, to put his hands on her. So when he came home, we thought he was going to get away with it. I said, nah, you're done putting your hands on my mother. So when he got home, I put him on his ass. Can you imagine an 11-year-old knocking out a grown man? I put him on his ass, and I told him if he ever puts his hands on my mother again, I was going to end his life. And I meant every word of that. And after that day, he's never put his hands on her. But abuse doesn't end there. Abuse is both physically and mental and emotional too. So he was a terrible father. He was a terrible husband. And he's over here wanting like to sort of fix things and people to forget what he did. No, nobody's going to forget what you did. For a person like that, the best you can do is remove him out of your life. So if there's anybody out there who's dealt with what I've dealt with, it's a trauma and it's not your fault. It's actually his fault. And I remember at one point, I remember telling my mother, Mom, I wish I had never been born so that you would never have been stuck with this guy. But then I got to realizing it's not my fault that he's an abusive, sorry sack of trash. He's just a piece of shit that has no respect for women. And he's a coward. And so I remember putting him out on his ass and he's like, how dare you knock me? I said, yeah, same reason why you put your hands on my mother. And ever since that day, I don't really deal with him. I've tried to fix things, but he's the type of individual that's selfish, blames everybody else for the things that goes wrong in his life instead of taking blame for what he does. So I said, we're done. And after that, I've kind of become a guardian of my mother, advocate, and to the point where we don't speak. You know, it's just, it would take the rest of my life to tell you the full story of this podcast. I can tell you so many stories, different situations where this man beat my mother, whether it was at the grocery, whether it was at work, outside of a job, or at home, in the bedroom. I remember one time, one of the greatest traumas was me walking into a room, my mother was just bleeding, looking like she had just been in an MMA fight. I mean, it really hit my heart. And to really tick me off was the useless family members, whether it was cousins or his useless brothers, didn't do a damn thing about it. And so I've grown a resentment, which I'm going to get down later on, talk about that, towards a whole lot of family members. Whether it was people on my mom's side of the family or his side of the family. I don't speak to any of them. I've cut them all off and they know not to challenge me. You know what I'm saying? It's just you right is right and wrong is wrong. And this guy is a sorry sack of trash. My father's a piece of shit. I've told him straight to his face, you're a piece of shit. You're a coward. You're an abusive piece of trash. And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't hit your mother no more. I said, yeah, you don't, because I told you I was going to lay you out and end your life if you ever put your hands on my mother. And so people are going to extremes. And if there's anybody out there who's ever been through what I've been through, it's not your fault. What you need to do is get help. You call the 1-800 national hotline for domestic abuse. That's 1-800-799-7273. That's 1-800-799-7273. 7233. Excuse me, please. I'm going to say that number again as the show goes. But that's where the story is. The story is so long, and it has different effects on me too, because I have 2 younger brothers and a sister. And as the oldest, I felt the obligation to do something, so I did. I remember going to practice, because in that time, trying to figure out my life. I'm 11 years old. While other kids are playing PlayStation or whatever it is they were doing, I'm over here worrying about defending my mother, going home to traumatic situations. And I'll say this: if you're a teacher at an institution or high school, middle school, whatever, you need to be just more than a teacher at school wondering what the grades are going to get. You can need to ask, what kind of situations are the kids dealing with? How much toothpaste do you have in your house? What's the situation with your parents? Because a person like me did not know where to go, did not know what to do. And now here I am as a grown man facing it, and you have many traumas. You have different types of ways you deal with things. So the way you deal with other people outside of your circumference, even though they're not your father, is like, you know what, you're always on the guard, you're always on the defense, and necessarily you're always on the offenses too, because you don't know what these individuals' actual intentions are. So the story is horrifying. I don't want to go into too much detail of it. Maybe one day I'll write a book, but it would take the rest of my life or the rest of this podcast and a whole bunch of episodes. This probably turned out to be a 10-hour episode if I wanted to actually talk about it. So many scenarios, man. And I reached a boiling point where I decided to do something. And so indirectly, I became an advocate for my mother. I'm not going to call myself a hero. What I did was what most kids don't do. I stood up to my father, let him know, you're a piece of shit. You're not going to put your hands on my mother ever again. And I didn't have to end his life to do it. I straight up just laid his ass out. He's on his ass, and he couldn't believe it. And in African culture, which is another thing I'm going to talk about, a bunch of cowards, they don't treat women with the respect they deserve to be treated with. They don't see them as equals. They just see them as things to have their kids, things to have sex with, and things to cook in their kitchen. That's a lot of these useless African men. And for these generations of African men that are 65, they're all pieces of shit, just like the fathers before them. And so they don't want to see the comparison. But me, I was like, know what? Hell no. I'm not going for that. Even till today, I'm not going for it. I've had to adjust my mind to what has happened to me. Now, the effects of growing up in a household where there's domestic abuse is that you become emotionally, you don't understand your emotion. There's no emotional intelligence, because it's not really a script for you seeing something like that. And how do you deal with it? And the effects is, I'm very, I'm guarded, but I'm also optimistic. I'm there for people, but there's only so much, I believe in smaller circles. I don't trust everybody. Everybody's welcome in my circle. When people do things, you're like, okay, so this guy's got the same kind of, this person's got the same kind of attitude as my father, so they're a selfish sack of trash, selfish sack of piece of shit. Basically, they're not anything for anything but themselves. And so, domestic abuse really changes the way you think. Whether you want to admit it or not, it creates trauma, which is down the line something I'm going to talk about. It creates a resentment, which is something I'm going to talk about, something I'm going to talk about next. And it makes you to see people as so people are this evil, they can do that to another human being. I mean, even till today, my father somehow thinks he's to be forgiven for what he did. You're not ever going to be forgiven. You're going to be forgotten, if anything else. You know what I mean? He's over here now he's old as hell, in his late 60s, going into 70s. He wants to be celebrated. I'm not celebrating you. You're a piece of shit. You think I'm going to let you forget what you did? Even just the other day, I reminded him what the hell he did. You're a piece of shit. You will never be forgiven for what you did. You will never be allowed to get away from what you did. You will be given a constant reminder of the atrocity to which you committed. What he wants is for his kids to celebrate. No, we're not going to celebrate you. You can go to hell. I remember I was just talking to my brother the other day, and I said, I'm finally come to grips with this trauma, and I'm definitely going to go find a therapist, which is another thing I'm going to talk about too. You know what I mean? So the effects are very different for everybody, man. But I hope that the effects never kept me from being ambitious. It never really honestly took away my confidence. It never really stopped me from wanting to achieve dreams. This is where I am today, which is why my podcast is where it is today, which is why it's an international podcast. I've had many guests. I've had many episodes. I've had my own clothing line, got my own footwear line. I got my own animation series coming, got my first comic book coming out this year. It seems like a lot what I'm saying here, but it's like breaking the ice, man. It's a ball and chain. It literally is a ball and chain of you carrying something that is not your fault, but it affects you indirectly and directly. I can only imagine, and my mother's an angel. Till today, I can't understand the strength. And yes, it's healed and all that stuff, but I feel like she has a strength at where she's forgiving, but she's able to move on. But also too, the scales of karma, I've also paid my father back in full. Every business he's tried to put together has went to shit. You know, my mother's been blessed with great health. He looks like shit. My father looks like shit. He looks like an old, broke down, I don't know what's a raggedy human being, because he's paying for all the fucked up shit he's done. And not to mention, this bum is an alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? So he's a functioning alcoholic who thinks he's somehow, like I said, karma has a way of paying you back for all the fucked up shit you do. And I told him, you're a piece of shit. You are always going to keep being the way you are till you pay for what you've done. The scales of karma is what's paying you back for what you've done. You asking for what you've done. So, you know, there are many effects, man. But then next up, it leads up to resentment. Because if I stay here, I'll talk about this all day long. Resentment, right? I'm not going to lie. There's a point in my life where I had resentment towards my mother. Why is it that you stayed around with this piece of shit after me knocking him out and knowing that you need to get away from this abusive piece of shit? But for a lot of women, when you have kids, you really don't want to leave because I guess her thing was she didn't want us to not have him in our life. We don't want this piece of shit in our life. I told my mother that he's a piece of shit. I remember at one point when I first graduated out of college, one of the first things I did with one of my patients was give my mother money so she could go get a lawyer to get a divorce from this guy because he's a piece of shit. There's nothing he's ever going to do that's going to make me forgive him for what he's done. There is no forgiveness. The only thing that's going to happen is me forgetting him. Like I said, I'm going to talk about therapy, which I've started. You know, I'm looking for the right therapist. You know, I've said I'm not forgiving him. I've made it clear to any therapist that I'm interviewing. He is not going to be in my life because as far as I'm concerned, he's a toxic sewage in my life. He's a piece of shit. Why would I want somebody like that in my life? And I remember with my mom, the resentment, me just not wanting to, just like, why are you acting like this? You're being a coward. You're being weak. Why are you staying with a man who's a piece of shit? And so as I got older, not that I understood it, but I understood how she was trying to keep the family together, which is sad because you got the person who's the one getting abused, who's a victim, who's even stronger than the victimizer, trying to keep the family together. You know, if there's anything that's ever this family's ever need, my mom's the one who's provided it. My father, as far as I'm concerned, does not exist. He's a piece of shit. There's nothing he can do to make himself exist in my universe. I told him that maybe that last week. You're a piece of shit. You don't exist. Not only is his numbers blocked, numbers blocked in my cell phone. His number's not in my cell phone. I deleted him. I literally deleted him out of life. Every single picture of him doesn't exist. And I've had to not resent my mother for the choice that she made and let her know. I remember having this one conversation like, you know, Mom, I used to resent you for being a coward. I felt like you were a coward and you didn't leave this guy. Why did you leave this guy? It was been easy just to leave him and move on so you could move on to a better plane of existence. Yourself emotionally gets to heal. Yourself physically gets to heal. Yourself mentally gets to heal. But, you know, this is the way I have so much respect for women. They are emotionally, mentally, physically stronger than men, right? And so this also, too, me wanting to not build a new relationship with my mother, seeing that maybe what she did was required strength to go through all that. And this woman going through all this whole time. She went to work every single day, never missed a day of work, never missed a job. I mean, this woman still able to put food on the table for her kids. I remember one time after all this, the next day she goes to work, cleaning herself up, makeup and all this stuff. And I'm like, fuck this shit. This is bullshit. So I remember just being angry towards my mother, saying, why the hell are you staying with this piece of shit? Why the hell did you not leave this motherfucker? And that's another thing comes back to African culture. It's bullshit. And all the cowards in our family, whether it was cousins or uncles or aunts, I said, fuck all of them. You sorry motherfuckers. I cussed out a whole lot of them and let them know you're a bunch of fucking cowards. You didn't do anything when this woman was getting abused, but you've got the nerve to want to come around, act like everything is okay. No, everything's not okay. You're a piece of shit. I removed you from my life. I removed a lot of cousins, aunts, uncles. They all had to go. I straight up told them, you can go fuck yourself. Pardon my language, but in this probably the first time y'all heard me cuss on this show, but it needed, I'm letting this come out raw as it is. And I've had to build a new relationship with my mother, letting her know. And now even she's starting to see what I'm talking about in terms of why I resent this man, the trauma that he has caused. And so she's able to understand it, and she's found her new strength. Like I said, I rebuilt a new relationship with my mother. I had to stop resenting her and stop hating her for staying with this guy, piece of shit. But also, too, let's not lie, I resent my father. It's not even so much resentment. I despise him. I think he's a piece of shit. There's no amount of apology. There's no amount of anything he can do that's going to fix what he's done. He's been removed from my life. I've told him straight up, you are dead to me. That's straight up what I told him. You don't exist. You know what I'm saying? The time when I laid you out when I was 11 was the last time you was ever going to put your hands on my mother. And then after that, you know, my mother's still with him, but there's verbal abuse, there's emotional abuse. And even that I've taken away from him. I said, you will not be abusing my mother in any kind of way. It ain't going to happen. I remember even telling him, yo, you don't shut the hell up, I'm going to call the 1-800 hotline on your sorry ass. You're a piece of shit, is what I told my father. How many kids you know? A lot of these kids out here over there trying to worship their father. I'm the opposite. Like, you're a piece of shit. What the fuck about you should I worship? I remember the other day him talking about, well, I'm not in your life. I said, yeah, you're not in my life because you're a piece of shit. You're an abusive piece of shit. You think you're going to be forgiven for what you did? No. So if you're out there as a kid, you shouldn't resent your mother. If anything, it's not even so much resent your father. Just he's not worthy in your life. And then you get the necessary help that you need to, which is something I'm going to talk about later on down the line. But resentment comes. I don't care how you do it. There's no way you're a human being. You're not going to resent people. So I don't deal with outside cousins. I don't deal with external family members. My circle is simple. My mother, my 2 brothers, my sister, and 2 homeboys that I got. That's it. My circle is small. I will never let my circle get any bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? Anybody else that I know is either you're a good individual or you're a bad individual. But there is no closeness. You know what I'm saying? My father does not exist. He does not exist in pictures. He does not exist in my phone. He does not exist in my email. Does not exist, period. He is non-existent to me. He is dead to me as far as I'm concerned. I really could care less what he does. I even told him the other day, go marry another woman. Find another wife. Go take your ass back to where the hell you came from. But I don't give a damn. You do not exist to me. You are not even breathing to me. So, resentment comes no matter what. He's over there trying to fix this. Oh, it's a new year. I don't give a fuck if it's a new year. 2023, 2024, you are still the same thing to me. Dead. You don't exist. My father does not exist. There's no way I'm forgiving you for what you did. You don't let somebody like that get away. And you've seen stuff on TV where you've got these kids that are worshiping their father. Why am I going to worship somebody who's an abusive piece of shit? That's not how I want to treat women. That's not how I don't want my daughter treated. That's not how you should want your daughter treated, or your aunt or your sister or anybody else that's closely related to you. You know what I'm saying? So I felt the need to talk about this story. Now, resentment, what comes after resentment is trauma. While you're going through all this stuff, the effects, the story, the resentment, there's trauma. I have trauma. And how do you deal with trauma? You acknowledge it. You don't try to hide from it and say, oh, I don't have trauma. I have trauma. There's no getting around it. The trauma of the way I see things, the trauma of the emotional destruction of the domestic abuse that my father imprinted upon my mother. It's made me stronger to say, you know what? It's time to go get help. You know, I'm in 2022, then I told myself, you know what? I've dealt with this. My way of dealing with trauma was to work out, which is to suppress stress, which in a way trauma creates stress. It creates anxiety, which I don't have. It creates just all kinds of different things where you're not emotionally being the strongest person you are. I remember going because I'm going to talk about this next, the therapy part of this, right? Going to a doctor, the first doctor, I talked to them last week, and I said I explained my story, and the lady said, you're calling the wrong place. What you need is something called therapy and trauma-informed therapist. I'm going to say it again. What I needed was therapy and trauma-informed therapist. And then I came to understand what my situation was. So what I needed was counseling, to find somebody who can help me to deal with the story of what has happened to me, right? The domestic abuse to which my father put on my mother, what he did to her, how it affected me, how it affected my 2 brothers, how it affected my sister. We all have different symptoms. Everybody had different symptoms. But the great thing is that we are acknowledging of what happened. And the thing is that this trauma can never be moved out of the way unless you acknowledge it. A lot of people try to hide from it. And in African culture, which really pisses me off, it's okay for the husband to beat the wife, but then you want to tell the husband, the only thing you want to tell him is, oh, you shouldn't beat your wife. This is the cowardice of a culture, right? Specifically the Nigerian culture. I think it's a piece of shit. It's a fucking piece of shit, trash culture that cowards behind women not having rights, teaching them like second kind citizen. And yeah, you got women that are pieces of shit too. You know what I'm saying? There's women out here that are abusing their men too. And the same thing that applies to abusive men should apply to abusive women. There's a lot of women out here putting their hands on their man. Keep your damn hands to yourself. Your hands are not meant for putting on people. You keep those motherfuckers to yourself. You know what I'm saying? And I believe in this. Those who are abusive should be shamed, put out in the light, and made to look as terrible because they're a piece of shit human being. There's no reason why you should be allowed to be celebrated if you're an abusive piece of shit. There's a whole bunch of entertainers, athletes, whoever you are, people are celebrating. I'm not celebrating this piece of shit. Hell no. You're an abusive sack of trash. And if you're a subscriber of mine or a listener of mine that usually listens to my podcast and you don't like what I'm talking about, then unsubscribe, because I don't need your sorry motherfucking ass. You know what I'm saying? I'm for people that want to change the world, make it better. Because there's a lot of people that are dealing with what I'm dealing with, that are dealing with what I've dealt with and don't know how to deal with it. So now I'm going to be a voice. I'm going to use my platform to make this better situation. Yes, trauma. I have trauma. There's no dancing around it. I don't want to dance around it. I'm facing it. And so you have to say you have trauma. Once you've accepted it, now you can get help. And this is where the change comes. I told myself, you know what? I am going to go find a therapist. I want to know what my diagnosis is. I want to meet somebody, whether it's once a week, twice a week, every 2 weeks, once a month. But I'm going to talk to somebody who's an expert, but most importantly, who wants to understand my story, Who's not gonna dance around my story? Who's not gonna try to justify that my father is a domestic abusive piece of shit? You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna dance around that. Because for me, the courage of standing up to your father at 11 years old makes me realize how strong I was to say this is wrong. Most 11-year-old kids do not stand up to their fathers doing shit like that. They're more trying to celebrate them. I'm not celebrating you, piece of shit. Hell no. That's why I see some of these people that are on TV, whether it's athletes or whoever, they're getting caught in a situation and they're like doing the same thing to the father because they think that's the right thing to do. There's nothing right about putting hands on anybody. That goes for men putting hands on women or women putting hands on men. Keep your damn hands to your motherfucking self. You know what I'm saying? You don't put hands on people, period. You know what I mean? So the change is me getting therapy. The change is me understanding what it is. And for a lot of y'all, if you deal with domestic abuse or any other kind of abuse, there are hotlines out there. There are numbers out there for you to call to get help. Anonymous numbers. Nobody's going to put out your business. Nobody's going to tell anybody. I've had to understand what I needed was therapy and trauma-informed therapist. That's what I'm saying again. Therapy and trauma-informed therapist. So now I'm on the mission to find the right therapist. I've talked to 5 people already, and I'm interviewing them like as if they get to have the job of helping me to be a better human being. You know what I'm saying? The one thing I've become is emotionally, I'm very empathetic towards people, especially good people. I will never stand for people bullying people. I will not tolerate it. I will not tolerate domestic abuse. I will not tolerate sexual abuse. I will not tolerate I will not tolerate any kind of abuse in my face. It ain't gonna happen. You better not be a bastard that's in front of me thinking I'm gonna let you put hands on a woman in front of me. It ain't gonna fucking happen. And I'm not gonna allow that shit. Hell no. Like I'm a personal trainer. That's something that I talk about once in a blue moon. But one of the reasons why I started teaching women boxing is to prevent what happened to my mother. So today I'm teaching my mother boxing. I feel sorry for the person who ever tries to come at my mother because she got hands now. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? The change has to come when you accept it in your mind, right? So it doesn't affect you. So I don't have anxiety. I don't have depression. I don't have any of those other things. But what I do have is trauma. And I want to get that out of my life. I want to better it. Yes, I've accomplished a whole lot with having that trauma in my life. But what even greater greatness can I accomplish when I decide this trauma needs to go? There needs to be a better understanding. Get therapy, get the counseling needed, right? Because there are so many experts out there who are ready to help you. And there's help out there to help you. So the change must come, which in turn leads to therapy. There's nothing wrong with therapy. It's meant to make you a better human being, make you a better human being, make you a better human being. Yes, I said it 3 times. You know what I'm saying? To uplift your spirit, to better your spirit so that you can be the best version of yourself. I, Adewale Jr., want to be the best version of myself. There are many people out there that have dealt with what I've dealt with, but a lot of them don't have the courage to stand up to their father at 11 years old. A lot of them don't have the courage to talk about it on a platform, on a podcast platform. A lot of them don't have the courage to say, I need to go get therapy. Instead of getting these helps, they choose to just internalize it. And you shouldn't internalize something like that. You should move forward from it. You should grow from it. You should know that it's wrong. You should know that you should never do it because there's no comeback from it. I'm being honest. If you're an abusive person, once you've done it, it's been written in history. It's been written on the ledgers of life. You are forever going to be seen as a toxic sack of shit to me. There's nothing you can do to make yourself better. I will not associate with a person who abuses women or vice versa. If you're a woman who abuses men or you abuse children or you're a pedophile, any of those kind of shit, I will not, hell no. I will cut you off, period. You know what I'm saying? I will never, ever, ever allow it. And then, like I said before, I've cut off a lot of family members. I don't talk to them. In my phone, y'all, I probably got 20 numbers max in my phone. My circle ain't that big. And the 20 numbers are actually, aside from my 2 brothers, my sister, my mom, my 2 homeboys, everybody else is either you're a good associate or a bad associate. And if you're my number, I've decreed that you're a good associate and I want you in my life. You know what I'm saying? So the trauma has made me change. It's made me guarded. But it's also made me realize there's a lot of good people out there. But also, too, at the same time, too, don't be fooled into thinking everybody out there has got your best interest. So, therapy is a part of this thing. I felt the need to talk about it. I felt like a great weight had been lifted. And if you notice, the whole time I was talking, I was actually smiling. And that only comes when you've come to grips with something, when you're able to face it, when you're able to understand it, right? So yes, there's trauma. I have trauma. And yes, I'm begin therapy. I'm looking for, I have my first session in a week from now to it's basically me going through a phase of finding the right therapist, right? Find the right location that's right for me so I can get myself mentally where I need to be. I love the courage of people like Gabby Douglas, the gymnast, saying, no, I'm not going to do this event because it's affecting my mental. Or Naomi Osaka saying, I'm not playing this tennis match because I need to get my mental where it needs to be. Or various other athletes that will say, you know what? Mental health is more important. And whatever the situations they're dealing with is different from mine, but they've chosen to say, you know what? It's the most important thing. And I've told myself this year, This mental health is going to be important. And also, you don't be shocked when you see me doing different segments randomly of mental health and getting yourself where you need to be, because I think it's very, very, very important, right? And so before I get out of here, the National Hotline for Domestic Abuse, I'm going to say it again, the National Hotline for Domestic Abuse, if you're somebody who's dealing with it as a family member, if you're a child, you're a daughter, you're a son, you're an aunt, or whatever, the number is 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233. I'm going to say it again. That's 1-800-799-7233. That's the national hotline for domestic abuse. You call those people. They're available 24/7. You tell them what's going on with you, because I promise you, not only will they find you a therapist, but it'll get you the help. Find you a situation that's healthier. Get you out of the situation that you're in. Do not be ashamed of the fact that you come from such a situation. You aren't the creator of this situation. You are not the instigator. It's the abusive sack of shit like my father who are the creator of some. Who are the creators of this domestic abuse situation. People like him are the reasons. Don't let the victimizer treat themselves as the victim. They're not the victim. You know what I'm saying? Get the help you need. Don't let the anger be internalized. Don't be like me and where you carried it for so many years, 15 plus years of just dealing with it and realizing that, thinking you on your own. You're not on your own. You get the help you need. There's people out there want to help you. So now when I speak to these different people that I'm interviewing to be my therapist, I have no shame. It just comes out of my mouth. This is my story. This is what happened. My father was a domestic piece of shit. He used to beat my mother. Then I even tell the stories. I go into detail of how she was bleeding. I'm over here being the towel person, cleaning my mother full of blood, getting her ready to look, getting her cleaned up, just letting her know that I'm here for support and being there emotionally. I don't know how I did it as 11-year-old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, dealing with this stuff, 11 years old. But the main thing was I wanted to end it, bring it to an end so that my two brothers and my younger sister, who was at the time was probably 4 or 3, would not see this. That was really my real mission right there, to end it. But now we've all grown up. We all seen the kind of the guilt, the guilt, what my father's guilty of, and he can't never be forgiven. He sees himself like, oh, I've changed. No, you haven't changed. You're still an abusive piece of shit. There's many ways to be abusive, but he's a coward, and I've told him that straight to face. And now he wants a relationship established between me and him. It ain't never gonna happen. He'll call his friends. I'm like, dude, I don't give a damn who you call. Fuck your friends and fuck you. I'm done with you. You know what I'm saying? I've told any therapist that I've spoken to so far is that I want nothing to do with my father. I'm not associating with getting you as a therapist to say, why did you fix this to my father? I'm getting you to let me know, to acknowledge what I've been through in my life so that I can go forward. And for me, personally, he's not positive. And to me, I always have a rule. My code of conduct requires positivity only. I've not gotten this far in life by thinking negatively. In spite of all that I've been through, I still maintain a great positive mind. So y'all be out there, maintain a great positive mind. You can overcome this. You're not alone. Get the necessary help. The National Domestic Hotline is available. 1-800-799-7233. So I want to thank you for listening. I felt this story now needs to get out. I need to get out my truth. What better platform to use than other than the podcast that is very successful using it. So, and I do not care who doesn't want to listen to it anymore or who doesn't want to sponsor. I do not care. I don't need you. If you're afraid for me to talk about what's going on with me or what has happened to me, then you don't need to be around me, because you're a coward that don't want around me. So be out there, be strong. Don't be afraid. If you're a kid out there, man, if you feel like you need this help, get it. They are out there. 1-800-799-7233. That's the domestic hotline. Anybody can call that number. So call that number if you are in a situation. Please call that number. So y'all, want to thank you for listening. But before we get up out of here, always got to talk about the new products we got on the lighter note. You know what I'm saying? Winter is here. So I want to show y'all the sweatpants. I showed it before in a previous episode. I want to show y'all again. They're available on multiple characters, double-sided. You know what I'm saying? They're great for exercising. They're great for general wear. They're great for working out. And you know what I'm saying? So find yours on sinusvision.com today. Sweatpants. These things keep you warm too. They're awesome. You know what I'm saying? I love the way they feel. They're made out of the greatest material. Rocks jersey. It's sports jersey. That I don't make anything but top of the line quality stuff, man. And of course, can't forget the bomber jacket. You know what I'm saying? The bomber jacket. You know what I'm saying? It's winter. You know what I'm saying? So you got to go get your pair. We got them in different types of bomber jacket too. We got jersey, satin, marble velvet, which is the one right here, which is the top of the platinum one. And then of course, gold label, the waterproof one. But also too, we're coming out with new design jackets. Oh, y'all going to love what's coming. So, that's what we're doing here at Sinus Vision. And before I get out of here, I don't want to forget, right? The first official Carjack for Size and Comic book is coming out. This is the bio book for it. So get ready to listen to an awesome comic book, right? The first official Carjack Assassin comic book is coming out this year. It's going through editing phase. It's literally almost done. Before you get it, you want to copy this bio book, man. Characters, tells you about the height, weight, all that stuff, as you can see. You know what I'm saying? You've got the assassins right here. You've got the carjacks right here. So get your copy today on soundvision.com. And you remember, I always talk about the versions. So this is version 3 and 4. And then, of course, the classic OG, classic number 1. You know what I mean? So go get your copy today on soundvision.com, y'all. So, but before we get up out of here, y'all, we want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank you for listening. The Sound Vision podcast is brought to you by A4 Capital Consulting. Growing good business anywhere and everywhere. Let A4 Capital Consulting take your business to the next level. That's A4CapitalConsulting.com for details, y'all. That's A4CapitalConsulting.com for details, y'all. As I stated before, A4 Capital Consulting is coming out with a new awesome podcast. Ways to how to help businesses grow their business to the next level, like Sound Vision has done. As you can see, everything we're doing is because of A4 Capital Consulting, y'all. So check them out, A4CapitalConsulting.com, y'all. The podcast is coming. And this podcast is also brought to you by Anadel Foot and Ankle. Don't live with foot pain. Let Anadel Foot and Ankle make your feet happy again. That's AnadelCenter.com for details, y'all. That's AnadelCenter.com for details, y'all. So, y'all, I want to thank you for listening. I know this podcast was heavy. What I talked about was a heavy subject, but it needed to be talked about because I feel like you're not free till you actually talk about what ails you. And so I hope that what I've done today is helping somebody else out there to fight whatever it is they're fighting, to deal with whatever it is they're dealing with. You know what I mean? So, y'all, I want to thank you for listening. This podcast is produced, written, and directed by yours truly, Adewale Agboke Jr. Please check out our website because we got all kinds of cool stuff at soundvision.com. New bomber jackets, new sweatpants, new beanies, phone cases, travel neck pillows, sportswear, footwear. I mean, it's all kinds of cool stuff, man. Before I get up out of here, before I forget, can't forget the Batas footwear line, you know what I mean? Forgot about this right here. The Batas one, the original OGs, a classic platinum one right here. You know what I'm saying? You get the Batas one right here. Go get you a pair. As you can see, these shoes are so sick. You know what I mean? I always get compliments when I'm wearing these right here. Then, of course, can't forget the low tops, right? You know what I mean? The Batas 2 low tops right here. You know what I mean? You get your pair, and you can see it's double-sided with the art. So, you know, you go get your pair today on soundvision.com. We got all kinds of cool gear, man. And then, also can't forget, you know what I mean? The Batas high tops. You know what I mean? Batas 2 high tops. Yeah, they're sick as hell, y'all. Check that out, man. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Get to Batas 2 high tops. Get your pair today. You know what I'm saying? You can find all kinds of different designs, man. And before I forget, y'all hold on a quick sec. You know I got to get you to Sport 1. Yep, the Bata Sport ones. Yep, you know I had to. These are the first originals. You know what I mean? The first original Bata Sport ones. You know they're in a box now. They don't get worn, so I like to only use them and show it to y'all on the show. But you know, look at this awesomeness. Art all over the place, man. I've gotten so many compliments for these shoes, man. You know what I mean? So the Bata Sport ones, great for exercising. You know what I mean? So get your pair today on soundvision.com, y'all. This is what we doing. This is what we're doing at soundvision.com, y'all. So y'all, like I said, I want to thank y'all for listening. Please check out our website at soundvision.com for all these cool products. Please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen, whether it's Amazon, Desert, Spotify, Apple. And you can also listen to our podcast on soundvision.com. And please follow us on our social media platforms. I can't stress that enough, y'all. Social media is part of the game now. You use it to grow your business, to grow your platform. And our platform is growing. So at Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all at Sound Vision. The biggest 2 gamers right now is TikTok and YouTube. Do not play yourself. If you're an artist, please have your social game up. If you're any kind of business, your social media platform needs to be there. You need to have that happening. So you know what I'm saying? So please review us, rate us, give us a 5-star. Don't be a hater. And as always, y'all, continue to aspire and achieve. Have a great week. Stay safe, y'all. Peace.